You have come to the realization that what you're dealing with is spiritual pacts, agreements, or covenants established long before you were born between your fathers or forefathers and the kingdom of darkness. And those spiritual pacts, agreements involve you in a very specific way because you're to play a particular role as part of the whole covenant. You realize that you were born into a role as dictated by your fathers or forefathers of your bloodline. The role is not of God. What do you need to understand? Top and foremost, you need to understand spiritual authority. Spiritual authority plays the biggest role here because the agreements and the role you are given to play have been authorized by whoever were the highest human authority of your bloodline at the time, of your extended family or clan, and so on. They used their earthly authority to assign these roles and make the agreement binding on anyone that falls under their authority henceforth. Hello family, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, depending on your time zone. I trust that you're doing well. Today we are continuing on with our discussion about ancient evil covenants. I touched briefly on this in my last video, and this is a continuation of that discussion as we dig deeper into this topic. Let us just get started. Spiritual authority is the most important factor to deal with because when you reject this agreement, the ancient evil covenant or agreement, in essence, you are saying no to your fathers or your forefathers. The fourth commandment tells us to honor our mother and father so that we may live long in the land that God has given us. In other words, so things may go well for us. Another thing to consider is that parents make decisions for their children, and we see that in the Bible how Laban gave Leah to Jacob in marriage and not Rachel, and Leah stayed married to Jacob even though she felt unloved, even though Jacob complained about it. But it was binding. It was Laban's decision and it was binding. That is in the book of Genesis. In Luke chapter 10 verse 19 it says, I have given you authority to trample on serpents and scorpions and over all the works of the enemy, and no harm shall by any means come to you. So in breaking these types of covenants, it is important to always remember it is the authority over the works of darkness and not against the people involved. You're not coming against the people involved. So always remember, respect the people, but reject the works of darkness. Let God deal with the people. They are answerable to him. According to Hebrews chapter 13 verse 17, which says, obey your leaders and submit to them, for they are keeping watch over your souls, as those who will have to give an account. They will have to give an account to who? To the Almighty God, the creator of heaven and earth. Right. So now this word here is especially for women. In most cases, girls or women are the ones who are victims in a lot of these cases of ancient covenants where someone in the family, a child in the family, is to be given as a sacrifice to satisfy that ancient agreement. Maybe the firstborn daughter or the lastborn daughter or the middle daughter of the first son or the first daughter of the middle son, or whatever it is, that it is in most cases involving a young woman, a girl, a baby girl who is to be given as a sacrifice. So for women who find themselves to be the sacrifice, to be unalived as part of the evil ancient covenants as stipulated by forefathers, change or spiritual authority is the key. When a woman is unmarried, she is under the spiritual authority of her father, and everything that goes on in her father's house affects her. This is why we said it is the fathers that were most probably involved in these spiritual agreements, these ancient agreements, right? And so it is binding because fathers have the highest authority in a household. So it affects this girl who is growing up in her father's house. But when she gets married, she leaves the spiritual authority of her father and his house and comes into the new spiritual authority of her husband. Her husband now becomes the new spiritual authority that she falls under. That is why marriage is the key. If you want to change spiritual authority as a woman, it is marriage that is the way that God has ordained for that to happen. In this case, she should focus her prayers to get married to a godly man. Let us remember Ruth in the Bible. Ruth was a Moabite. In fact, they were idolaters. They were people that worshipped idols. Her family probably worshipped idols. Then she came under the spiritual authority of Boaz when he covered her with the blanket. That blanket signified spiritual authority. So he covered her with the blanket, which means he took spiritual authority over her. So she moved from being under the spiritual authority of her fathers, her forefathers, who were Moabites, who were idolaters, and she came under a new spiritual authority under Boaz. Then something changed for her, right? She was able to live long. She was able to deliver a baby boy who became a great-grandfather to David, King David. And Ruth is mentioned in the genealogy of Jesus Christ, right? And she's a Moabite, but that is because her spiritual authority changed, and it changed through marriage. Yes. So a man that God has anointed and appointed for this purpose of changing the spiritual authority of such a type of a woman or girl. This is how this woman gets out of the ancient evil covenants. If her husband is appointed by God for this, he is the one who will say no to that agreement. He will say this once the woman is under his authority as his wife. We see another example of this in the book of Tobit. The book of Tobit is found in the Ethiopian Bible. We know the Ethiopian Bible has the most books. These other Bibles, St. James Bible and English Standard Version, New International Version, like they have books that were removed. The Ethiopian Bible has 81 books, I believe. Tobit is one of those books. And it's one of the books where there's a certain woman called Sarah who was facing a situation where a demon was tormenting her. It was like a spiritual spouse that was tormenting her. And this demon would kill all of her husbands on the wedding night. As soon as she's married, the demon would kill the husband. So up to 7 men were killed in that way. But came Tobias, and Tobias was anointed for this. There was an angel that was guiding him on his journey. He was going on a journey throughout this process, and this angel was sent to guide him and keep him safe and teach him on how he is to bind that evil spirit. And so he went and he fell in love with this woman, Sarah, and the angel told him that he and this woman, Sarah, were already joined before the foundation of the earth, right? That is how we know that God has already ordained spouses for people before the foundation of the earth. Tobias was able to meet Sarah, marry Sarah. On the wedding night, he encountered that demon. He defeated that demon. The demon was bound, and it never came back again. Sarah was free from that demon and from that ancient covenant that brought that demon to torment her in the first place. So only the man, only the husband that has been anointed and appointed for that purpose will be successful. So as a woman, we also told in that book of Tobit that Sarah prayed. There was a time that people were mocking her and making fun of her because of her life and her situation. She felt very bitter about it. She really cried out to God from her heart. And God heard her prayer on that day. When she cried from the deepest part of her heart, God heard her prayer, and Tobias was there starting his journey. Unknown to him that he had a specific role to play in the life of Sarah, which is to shift the spiritual authority so that she can move from being under the spiritual authority of her father's house and come under the spiritual authority of Tobias. And then using that spiritual authority that he was given by God, he was able to defeat the ancient covenant and the spirit of. So that's just an example from the Bible. Now, we see that once this husband, if he's a godly husband, God will also put this in his heart. God will put this in his spirit. So he will also be aware of what is going on. So when that time comes, he will have the power to break that agreement concerning the role assigned to his wife. So for example, if the wife was to be given or offered as a sacrifice and be unalived in one way or another as part of that covenant, he can veto that and say, no, he's not in agreement with it, he's not going to go forward, and he can reject that spirit of death, cancel that plan that has been attached to his wife. Because he is her legal husband. This only applies once this man has legally married this wife. It will not work if they're just dating or they're courting. It only works once there is a legal marriage in place. She is legally his wife. So because he is her legal husband, his no will hold on earth and in heaven, because she now falls under his spiritual authority. And that evil spirit of death will have to flee once and for all, and that sacrifice will no longer go forward. What does that mean? That means that that ancient covenant is broken. That means that at that point, that ancient covenant is broken because that condition is not able to be met to keep that covenant going. So this is why for women under this type of situation, this word is for you. Spend some time seeking God. Seek him with all your heart and redirect your prayers towards praying for a godly husband, because there is a role for him to play. And in this case, a very important role for him to play. I hope this word blesses somebody today. I hope it helps you to know what to be praying for or how to pray if you find yourself in this type of a situation and you are unmarried. This is where your focus of prayer should be on, not break this evil covenant. I break it. I reject it. Also add to that praying for my partner, my God-ordained husband, whom you, God, have appointed for this purpose, that he should locate me and play his role as according to your plan and as according to what is written in the book of destiny about me and about him. That is Psalms 139 verse 16. Because if you're trying to do it alone and it's really not working, then maybe that role is to be played by somebody else. And maybe that somebody else is a husband who is supposed to locate you, do the needful, and then play his role in this story. So then you can redirect your prayers towards this so that then this can happen. I hope that this message today opens the eyes of someone. I hope that it's helpful to someone. As usual, let me know your thoughts and in the comment section down below. I look forward to sharing another spiritual insight word with you as the Holy Spirit leads me to. Thank you so much and have a wonderful Sunday. Bye-bye.